See how that's looking over there. That's right. Sound check 212. How do we sound out there? This is up a little bit. Turn this down maybe a little bit. Camp, what's up, cousin? My cousin can't be in the building. How you feeling, family? How has the holidays treated you? And my little cousin and wifey. Yes, yes. We are back. We are back with another great episode. Start this off right. Welcome to the Respectfully Great podcast. I am your host, Johnny Reed. And today we have a wonderful, wonderful episode uh presented today. Today is going to be super, super dope, super intrinsic, and we're going to get great, great value from it because we're going to have great, great dialogue behind our conversation. So I'm pleased to have everybody in the building. My cousin David Campy is in the building today. I love you unconditionally, bro. Um, yeah, it's going down. So right now we are live on Instagram, StreamYard, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok. Swag, what's up, loved one? Cousin Swag is in the building. What's up, God? Ak is in the building. Peace, loved one. Today we got a great, great episode staged for today. Man, I'm super pumped, super ecstatic. It's been a hell of a journey. We coming up on the end of the year. This is our 41st episode. Let's give a round of applause for the 41st episode of the Respectfully Great podcast. Absolutely. So yeah, unlimited love, loved one. Yes, sir. Yeah, man, it's super. It's great to be here, alive, well, and breathing. We know there are a lot of things that's going on in the world, in society today. Um, a lot of hardships, a lot of things that we can harp on that could be very, very difficult just um to dissect and kind of take in. But I think ultimately, if you have the opportunity to be alive now, that means that there's opportunity that you can go out there and create the life that you want to live in. And primarily, this is the episode where we actually talk about creating that lifestyle that you ideally would love to have. We titled it "Creating Your DNA," if I'm not mistaken. Um, always jump around with the titles because what's best suitable for the topic at hand. But ultimately, we are really, really diving in and delving into creating that version of you that if you had the opportunity, which you do, but if you had the opportunity to start from the inception stage, from the very, very beginning, the foundational aspect, if you had to create the world, the life, the attributes, the aesthetics, the financial, all of these things from its inception, from the very, very beginning, how would you do it? What would you turn yourself into? What superhero, superwoman, what would be part of your DNA? What would you make a part of your DNA if you had the opportunity to create it? And the beauty of it, ultimately, we're going to get to a point where we understand that reality, that animated version, that creative version of you, as of right now, the thinking that we're going to go through, the process, the actual, um, uh, 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 if we would say this would be, if it was a workshop version, if we took this and we actually curated a character, right? If this was a movie script and we took a character, what would that character build look like? What would that version of you look like? And I think this is a really, really dope and intrinsic perspective because it actually spawned from last week. Oh, Lizzie, one quick thing. Can we turn that down and put that on silent? Because before, remember, we had it on vibration and it was kind of throwing off the sound quality coming in and out of the microphone. So we can turn that down somehow, make it to that's my moderating in the building. That's what we doing right here. Got moderators, you heard? Stepping up in the world. Good money. Maybe on the side button, possibly. Menu. So actually work those kinks out. Just thinking about it, right? I think it's super, super dope to have that concept. I know for me, I haven't really thought, in the past, if I were to think about myself, if I wanted to create this thing all over again, what things would I add to my DNA? What would I change? What would I keep the same? How will my perspective be? Do I want a worldly view or do I want to pretty closed off or be closed minded about certain things? Would I want my eyes shut or turn the cheek to certain things that transpired in my life, or things that I've witnessed, or things that, or thoughts that even came into my mind? Do I wish that those thoughts, those ideas, um, how would I respond to these things? And this spawned out from a conversation that we had last week. We just sat around talking, building, in the process of doing a pod, and we thought about, well, what if we had a created version of you? And I thought about this in so many other ways. Ant, what's up, love one? My brother Ant is in the building. What's good, God? If you thought about, if you had the ability to change things, or actually build up that character from the very beginning, what would you add? What would you take away? Where would you be at? Where would you occupy? How would you create your mindset? Would you change things on perspective? Would you be more or less, uh, in tune with what's going on with the worldly things, or would you be more in tune with what's going on with you and your loved ones? Or would you even care to know what's going on with yourself versus worrying about the world? So I think there's so many beautiful perspectives about geared around this sentiment and this question, that I think that we will have great conversation around it today. Before we jump really into that, I want to know, how's everybody doing out there? Is everybody good? My cousin Swag, get the deuces up. Unlimited love. My brother Camp is in the building. Ant is in the building. How y'all brothers feeling today? Let me know how your spirit is aligned. Let me know if you feeling well. There's some things that are challenging, whatever. If you care to, you don't got to get to that point if you don't want people to know exactly how you're doing. But ultimately, I just want to acknowledge everybody that's in the building, and also for the people that come in and see this in due time in the near future. I want you to ask yourself that question: how you feeling at that very moment? How you feeling? A lot of times we're human beings, so a lot of times, a lot of things that we do, we be emotionally driven, and having our emotional intelligence intact, I think, is one of the things. If I were to create that creative player, that created version of me, if I wanted to create that superhero of myself, I would love to be someone that is very emotionally intelligent, because there are some things that, time periods and things that I've experienced in my life where I didn't show the best version of myself because I was not emotionally intelligent. I was emotionally ignorant, right? I was doing some things that was going against my moral compass, my moral conduct, and my morale. And I felt that at that time I was acting partially out of ignorance, also being immature. And I think when you go through those stages, there's beauty that come from it. I can reflect on those moments and think about how I was acting and responding at those times. Quay, what's up, sis? I think about those times and how I've matured to the individual that I am today. But I could look back on those moments and say, that wasn't my proud moment. I've said some things, I've done some things. I wish I could take those moments back. But what keeps me pretty much in alignment now is that there was a version of myself that I wasn't super proud of at a particular time in my life. So now I get the chance to go back and reflect and say, you know what? If I want to be on the straight and narrow, and if I want to grow and I want to mature to be the best version of myself, I know that I can't develop those same habits or revert back to those same ideologies and those thought processes or processes that I once did at a particular time in my life. So I think it's so many perspectives that we can get from creating that best version of yourself. What made me think about this primarily too is that we have the question about, you know if we had the power to change our lives. Oftentimes we think that we are stuck in this position. We think there's no way out. We think that it's impossible. My life is what it is at this very moment. There's no room for change or growth. I'm kind of just stuck in I have this type of hindrance that's going on right now in my life. It may be a financial thing. It may be a career thing. It may be a mental thing. It may be an environmental thing. It may be a plethora of different things that we feel bound and stuck because we feel like, this is just what it is. And there's no way I'll be able to overcome or actually change what's going on. And I want to be the first proponent to tell you that um that's that's false, right? That's a myth. That's something that I thought at a particular time of my life, and I actually have grown through. to see different stages of who I was. Because giving the example of some of those moments that I wasn't as proud of myself from some of the decision makings from some of those decision makings that I had in the past. I really wasn't proud of myself at those moments. But now I could look at myself today and say, there's some things that I'm very, very proud of. Just being able to count those blessings and being appreciative. So I think we can find so much beauty in these moments, but it also gave me the confirmation that although I was that person then, I still have room for growth and change is possible. And I want to be able to highlight that throughout this podcast episode today, that we can change. We can change. The only thing that's constant in this world is change. But for some reason, we stay stuck in a particular mindset, a particular thought, a particular belief. There's so many systems that's geared around how we present ourselves, where we present ourselves, the hats, the many hats that we wear, how we show up in these different environments. And I think that when we build up this persona, sometimes we feel stuck like glue and bound to that person. And maybe that person may have gotten you through some of your toughest times, right? We say, I like who I may not, I may want different for my life, right? I may want to grow into a different person, but I really don't want to neglect the person that's here now, because this person that got me through some of my toughest times. And it always makes me revert back to, just because it's common, that doesn't mean correct. I love this quote so, so much. And I remind myself of it from Coach Lucky. We do a particular thing, right? And we build up certain levels of habits and ways of doing things that it becomes the norm, right? And when you do things just to get by, I think we are human beings. We adapt to our environments. We are very, very creative. We are creatures of habit. So we know how to survive. There's a survival mechanism. There's a self-preservation uh, aspect or element or emotion, something that's behind us that will allow us to get past a particular thing. We are very, very good at hiding our feelings, our emotions. There are times where we go along to get along, something that I've done for a very, very long time. We can fit in. We can be amongst the crowd and find our placement just going along with everybody else. And I found out that us doing these things, we're very creative. We know how to hide behind um, some of these walls, some of these ideas, some of these beliefs, and we could fit in very, very well. But what made me think about being behind this wall, right, of beliefs and systems, etc. I'm like, well, is it possible to change that? Well, we adapted to the environment to fit in. How about we take on a different philosophy to step aside that and step outside of that belief system and create the version of you that you want to create? Not just because the other version of you got you through difficult times. How about we can still keep that, that person that was super, super resilient? But how about we add more to who that person is? How about we detach ourselves from the belief that we don't have the ability to grow through our situations, or grow out of, or take on a new philosophy, or a new idea, a new theology, a new belief system? How about we can step aside and say, you know what? If I were to look at myself from a third person and I see that person right there, although I admire so many things about him, he, which is the version of you, I admire that person, but I know that person has so much more potential. What about if we start to curate that potential aspect of you and start to become that best version of you, that superhero, that character in a movie, that character in a book, that person that's super, super resilient? What attributes would you add to who you are? What are some of the things that you would do differently? What are some of the things that you would keep the same? It made me think about this. The reason why I'm thinking about this is because I'm constantly seeking to be the best version of me, right? And I watch the world that we in today, right? I watch the social media. I watch people in real time. I watch my interactions when I come in contact with people, children. I try to think of the psychology that we all have, right? At the time, not putting too much thought into it. But if I'm outside and I see someone, not, disclaimer, whatever you do, that's your business. But if I see somebody take some garbage and throw it on the floor, I think about, well, what makes that person do that? Let me be very, very transparent. I was one of those individuals that used to crumble up garbage, driving in my car, throw it out the window. I used to do this all the time until I had a conversation with people, right? Used to tell me, Lizzie used to be one of them, like, hey, why you throwing things out the window? What do you get from that? That's part of littering, right? That you actually, making the jobs of the people more, whoever clean up the streets. Do you know that you destroying the habitat as well? Because there may be some chemicals, etc., that goes into somebody else's garden, etc. It's just a bad thing overall. You're destroying the planet. And then when I started to do further research, even though I hear these things from different people, watch, you know, shows. I used to watch Captain Planet. They trying to save the planet, etc., and fight off the enemies. But when I think about even from a cartoon perspective and thinking about a real life perspective, and I say, you know what? How much is our environment polluted, right? We think about the pollution that we have in the air, and we think about the polluted environment when there's things and garbage all around our environments and our communities. And I think, man, I'm adding to comment comment on TikTok. Oh, I love that. If she's standing outside, this is from TikTok Boogie. I love this comment. It says, or statement rather, if she's standing outside, does that make her outstanding? You know what I love about that? I would associate that with yes, that make that individual outstanding. And I think that's a great, great perspective because everything is about perspective. And I love how you put that, right? Because ideally, some people may say, if I'm standing outside, does that make that person outstanding? Or if I'm standing outside, does that make that person an outcast, right? And you chose the word outstanding instead of outcast. Normally, when somebody said they're outcasted, it means like they're not a part of the group, right? They're not part of the whole. They're an anomaly, right? But you chose the words outstanding, and I love how you associate it with somebody that's being outside, outstanding. Words have so much power, but what that shows me about yourself is that you're very, very intuitive. I think the selective words that you use are empowering, empowering, empowering words. I think that word that you use of outstanding is empowering. And I think that when we use certain languages, it can actually add or take away from who we are as people. Ellie, what's up, sis? I think that when we use these words, we actually start to paint the picture of the reality that we living in. So when you say when a person is standing outside, does that make them outstanding? I will wholeheartedly say yes. If somebody's standing outside, that makes them outstanding. I will much rather use the word outstanding than outcasted, right? And although outcast could be a different thing, meaning that, you disagree with the status quo of everybody else. And I think you can associate that with something else other than in your mind to mean something very, very meaningful and powerful. But you choosing the word outstanding, I think it gives validity to who you are and your perspective. And I think that you're a person that thinks outside of the box, but I think you are a person that has high self esteem because you chose the word outstanding. The words that you use have power. I know the language that we use carry a tone, a undertone that creates the reality that we live in. I was listening to Jim Rome, and I want to still talk about that outstanding part. I was listening to Jim Rome, and Jim Rome used to do workshops. He used to go to different prisons. He used to take him and his colleagues and different individuals. And what he did was he used to go to different prisons, talk to the inmates, right? What he started to discover when he was going into these environments, he started to learn that at this particular time when he was going through the prison system, that a lot of the inmates that he came in contact with, a high percentage of them had a limited vocabulary. So he said he started to think to himself, what does this mean in society? It means to him thoughts. I have a comment from my sister Ellie. She says, thoughts, words carry meaning and power. Absolutely. Thoughts, words carry meaning and power. Absolutely. This is what we're talking about with Jim Rome and Boogie on TikTok, the outstanding. When Jim Rome was entering into these prisons, he said that he noticed that a lot of the inmates that were there had a limited vocabulary. He said, so what does that mean in society? He started to discover that a lot of times these individuals, right, they will feel a particular way. And since they didn't have the words to put to their emotion, they started to act out how they felt. Why can this be problematic? It can be problematic for a lot of reasons. If someone is frustrated and they can't simply say, hey, right now I'm feeling overwhelmed and frustrated. If you were to look at frustration carried out as an act or active behavior, what would that look like? I know for me, if I would think of a powerful topic, absolutely, sis. If I would think about someone that's acting out frustration, to me, it would look like maybe someone balling up their fist as such, maybe doing this type of thing. Their facial expressions maybe turn into a mean mug. Steam may seem like it's coming out their ears and their nose. It may seem like somebody may slam something on the desk. Somebody may kick, punch, or hit. So when he started to say the discovery that he had found about people being in the environments and having the vocabulary, not being able to express how they felt, it had an adverse effect to who they are and what they mean and how these people operated and how they believed about themselves. They can get it could be a misnomer, they could get misjudged, they can be great individuals, but since they didn't have the words to put of how they felt, only way they can act, only way that they can show how they feeling in the moment is just acting it out. It could be very problematic, and it could be misleading because it could be a great person that I want to jump around. Let me finish that thought. It could be very problematic in our environments if you have to do that. I was watching something, right? And I can't remember the show I was watching, but it was a young lady and she was involved in a gang, right? And she was in Chicago. She was part of a particular gang. And what happened was she was involved, she was associated with a gang, right? And her environment, they was going against some other individuals that were a rival gang. And there was a particular person that was in a neighborhood that that had autism, right? That's why kids have tantrums, lack of being able to communicate or express their feelings. Another comment from my sis Ellie. She says that's why kids have tantrums, lack of being able to communicate or express their feelings. Absolutely. Absolutely. They're crying out for attention, tantrums. They can't figure out how to say what they feel, so they just throwing a tantrum. I think that is so on point. I think that is so accurate. Oh man, it's absolutely. Um, with the lady that was part of the gang, so she was in Chicago and they had a rival gang. So long story short, this person had autism. One of the individuals that they used to look out for in their neighborhood, she used to wake up in the morning. They used to be outside. He used to be outside, waiting for the bus, and she would take that person because it was part of their neighborhood. They love one. They love this individual, and they had autism. And he used to take the person, drive them to school, and this is what they normally did on a daily basis, right? When they see when they see that person outside. So one day, still having this gang war, etc. Uh, she ended up taking the kid in the car, driving to take him to school. And in the midst of this, they seen the rival gangs in the other vehicles. They approached the car, and then they started to fire off, and they end up unaliving the personnel. So when when she was in the car, she was saying that she was trying to tell that same individual that had autism to, you know, get down, duck, get out the way. And for some odd reason, they wasn't able to comprehend or understand the words that they were saying in the moment. It wasn't able to put two and two together because not saying that that ultimately would have saved that person's life, but just saying that ideally the communication barrier, it was there, and for whatever reason that individual wasn't able to comprehend or understand what that lady was saying. So they had to deal with that in a neighborhoods, their family members, et cetera, et cetera. Sad story, but it just made me think about just that communication aspect, right? And to think about how many messages in the world that we trying to communicate that we miscommunicate because we don't have the proper words to put with our thoughts, our feelings, and our emotions. How many times we say one thing and it's interpreted to somebody else a different way. They have done studies to where they have a group of 20 individuals, and it will be a message starting with that one person, and it has to go around to each individual, the other 19 participants. About time to get back to that same person, the story is misconstrued. It's all torn apart. They have different facts in it. They have different things that were added, different things that were taken out, and it shows us um, how we communicate can definitely get distorted. At least says adults with the lack of knowledge or way or expression can lash out in an even bigger way. See, brother, what's up, love? My brother Corin in the building. That is so powerful. Let me reiterate that. Let me say that one more time. Adults with the lack of knowledge or way or expression can lash out in even bigger ways. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Technology is just adding to the lack of communication and perception. So true, sis. So true. Man, I wanna touch upon that adults that have difficulty. Tap in, loved one. Absolutely. Absolutely, bro. I want to tap into that adult aspect. Think about that. Us being adults and we don't have the ability to communicate. My brother C brother says, let's get up this week. Got lots to talk about. Absolutely, loved one. That's Mando. We definitely locked in, family. Trauma Care 247. Go tap in. You have anything that's going on out there. This is plugs right now. I want to highlight this. If you have anything dealing with restoration, please call my brother Trauma Care 247, compatible consultants. If you are dealing with financial woes, you're dealing with some financial issues, your credit is all messed up, call compatible consultants. My sister Ellie and my brother Bones, please contact their firm. They got everything going on to get you right when it comes to funding and getting your credit right. Please tap in. It's a must. When we're talking about adults that have the same barrier of lack of communication, it becomes a even more bigger problem. How many times have we seen this in this day and age of some of our own peers, if you're an adult? I've seen this happen many times. There used to be this thing when we go out to clubs and parties, etc. Someone step on your shoes, and all it was an accident. And before you can even get the word out, because maybe the music too loud or the body language is different, we looking at the person with the side eye. Before you know it, you guys in there swinging for dear life to try to hurt one another. And all it was an accident. It was just a misstep. Somebody didn't see the other, but the communication wasn't able to be met because someone else took it a little bit further, sign of disrespect, or just the conversation wasn't even able to be had. And before you know, you're in there sparring. How about the same conversation that you have with someone or another personnel in the middle of the streets? Someone may have a difference of opinion. Somebody may have a quote unquote right way of doing things depending on what they were taught, the things that they've seen. They may communicate in a different way. Say you see two people outside just screaming at one another. I know Jay-Z's had a quote. They said, "Do you see two people from afar? You can't tell which one is some, I think along the lines of the idiot, something like that. You can't tell who right or wrong if you just see two people from a distance screaming back and forth. You can't tell who right or wrong because they both are committing the act of screaming at one another. So it makes you think about the communication that we have with each other. How are we doing these things? Is there a way to communicate without having to scream at one another, without having to fight, without having to spar? Are we emotionally intelligent enough to say how we feel without having to resort to violence? I think our communities are plagued with it in so many ways because our children, right? When we're talking about technology, we have these phones in our hands, right? So when you have your child at 2 years old, 3 years old, 4 years old, mommy and daddy busy in the house. Give the baby the phone, the iPad, tablet, etc. Let them be occupied with their cartoons. Before you know it, you walk away for 30 minutes, look at the kid, they're doing anything still on TV, but there's an advertisement that pop up. And then that advertisement has some act of violence. What about if your child is seeing this act of violence continuously throughout the commercial breaks on the iPad and tablets every day? And say they're on that tablet, iPad, phone, etc. for hours, and they constantly seeing acts of violence reinforced. What do you think that child behavior is going to be when they enter into different social environments, school, etc., at home? The continuous, fighting, or they start to get desensitized to acts of violence, and it becomes the norm. What happens when that child only communicated like that, and there were environments that pretty much championed on that active behavior and say, you know what, yeah, every time somebody come to you with some man, you got to knock them over the head. What if this was promoted in some of the environments that we were in, and you just seen this continuously? Every time somebody approach you in a disrespectful manner, you meet disrespect with disrespect, and you got to go upside the head and you got to beat them to the punch. What happened if we carry that thought and that belief system out until we up into our adulthood, and we start seeing adults, like my sister Ellie said, we start seeing adults have the lack of knowledge and the expressions of lashing out? What you think the people are going to get themselves involved in? Where does that lead to? It could be death. It could be unalived. It could be led to incarceration. It could be family members, innocent people getting hurt throughout this process. There's a lot of things that can transpire from these ideals. So this is why it's very, very important to understand the language that we use when we communicate, where we gain our information from, how are we taught, what vetting system do we have in place to say, you know what? No, what you're doing is wrong. In our culture, in our environment, in our system, you scheming, stealing, taking away, harming, physically assaulting some of the people in our space, in our environment, and our loved ones. No, there's consequences for that we're gonna deal with internally. We're not gonna wait until the authorities outside of our home or out there in the streets going to, take retribution, and they'll go out there and take authority and do what they need to do from their perspective. How about we start policing our own people and have a vetting system in place to say, you know what, when we doing wrong, it should be punishable with something. Not saying that you get lashings and things like that. What I'm saying is that if we do something that's unwarranted in our community, in our households, and with our family, that has to be rectified. That has to be checked. And if it goes unchecked too many times, there got to be consequences from within. Because once the people outside of your home get a hold of you, it may be a different consequences. It may be different. It may be a different consequence, and the consequences can be as severe as being unalive, doing 25 to life, not coming home. It could be so many variations to where you be stripped away from you, your people, your loved ones, and your environment. And this is where it can get real finicky, scary. It can be very, very troubling. It can be unsettling, because I know I have family members and loved ones that's experiencing the same thing as we talk right now in real time. And these things tear me up, because it's like I understand and I know that um culturally who we are as a people. I know we are great, great loving people. I know my people not really strictly violent individuals. We come from loving homes. Our parents and our loved ones and their parents and all of us loved us. Even if we didn't directly receive it from parent to parent, there's a sibling, there's a community member, there's somebody in your environment that told you. I know for me, I always was told when I was doing the wrong thing, I was told on. When I was up there doing something I wasn't supposed to do, I had a cousin that called, hey, Adana, your boy up here getting crazy. I had a family member, I had a community member on the block, wherever it was. When I was outside too long and outside standing around, nobody else is around on the corner. Hey, your boy out here doing something he ain't supposed to, because ain't nobody around. He'll be out here by himself. He shouldn't be out here. Ain't no friends around, nothing going on. He don't need to be out there. Whatever he's doing, he doesn't like. He's entertaining. He's into the wrong things. So when that happened, hey, okay, the community got involved. And that was the vetting system. So when I was in school, and doing the right thing. I still got that same call. And your boy was in class today. He did his thing. They did X, Y, and Z on a project, or they did X, Y, and Z. I was championed on in different aspects, and I was rectified and vetted when I had to go through different scenarios. When I was doing the wrong thing, I got told on by my peoples, because we had to police ourselves. We had to guide ourselves. Because if the people that love you enough don't tell you the truth, and they don't put you in the proper perspective to say, you know what you're doing is wrong, you don't get told that, you may grow up thinking that it's the norm and it's the right thing to do. So going back to what Jim Rome said, when he found out, when he was in his environment of going through these prisons and doing these workshops and talking to the inmates and just trying to find, where did their life turn? A lot of times they didn't have those vetting systems. They didn't have those systems to check them when he was out of balance, when he was in the wrong. So that communication thing is very, very important. The technology, if we use the technology in the wrong way and we don't censor it, we don't put up blocks, we don't put up ad blockers, whatever, on the tablets, etc., making sure that our children are watching adult content, innately they start taking on these behaviors and don't know where it came from. Be like, well, I did everything I was supposed to do in the house. Of course, we can't protect our children once we leave the house, but the teaching got to come from within first. So now they know what to do was right from in the house. When they carry themselves outside the house, they can be protected, and they have people around that's in your same community to make sure that we're looking out for one another. That's important. We don't understand. A lot of times we think about the self-preservation thing, which is very, very true. Preserve self. But when you start building community, you got to understand that you're just part of the whole. And this affects everybody in the community. It affects you. It affects your children. It affects your neighbor's children. It affects the teachers that's teaching your children. It affects the police that's policing your children. It affects everybody that play a role within the community. But if I know there have been times where I was doing some of the wrong things, and uh, uh, I may get jammed up, and I'm out there, and then the authorities come, the police come, and then as somebody else from the community that know that same cop or whoever say, you know what, that kid right there, he's a good kid. I know whatever he's doing right now, doing some idiot things out there, throwing rocks at cars, because I used to do that as well. I know he's throwing rocks at cars, but he's a good kid. How about we do this? How about we take him home to his parents, let him know what he was doing was wrong, and they trust me, they'll take care of him. That happened to me on many occasions. I know that kid. So we all looked out for one another, because the idea wasn't to send me away to prison for 25 years for the rest of my life. The idea was saying, you know what, there was a lesson that needed to be taught here. But when we miss out on these lessons from childhood and we start to become adults, like my sister Ellie was saying, it can be very, very problematic. Now the adults, it's just acting purely off of emotion and saying that I'm gonna meet my match. I'm gonna meet these other individuals, that whoever disrespected me, I'm gonna meet them with the same level of disrespect. Because that's the only way I know how to communicate. This is how I start to think about, when we want to create those other best versions of yourself. It has to start from the inception stage. It has to start from the very, very beginning. It has to start from foundational things. Okay, well, what is my belief system around this? How do I feel about other people? More importantly, how do I feel about myself? So now we got to check in and do those self audits. Well, if I'm disturbed, there's something that's bothering me. How about we be super, super direct? I was having a conversation with a loved one, and I was talking about when we fail to be transparent, there could be some things that's bothering me. Sometimes people misdirect their pain, their hurt, because they really don't want to touch upon the topic that's really bothering them. Prime example, say I'm bothered by somebody in school. If I was in school, somebody was picking on me for whatever reason, right? I'm getting picked on in school. Every day I'm coming home from school, I'm frustrated, I'm angry, pissed off. My parents may say, well, Johnny, why are you upset? What's going on? Uh, I don't know, man. It's too hot outside. I mean, you dress in shorts, t-shirt, look very, very comfortable. I mean, but okay. The next day, same thing, still transpiring, still getting bullied on in school. Come back home. It's not the weather today. Um, man, there was this dog that was just kept, bothering me, barking, whatever. Okay, maybe it's the dog that day. But every day coming home, there's something different that's bothering me. Instead of being fully open and transparent about, hey, there's somebody that's in there in school in this environment that's bullying me, etc. That can't get addressed, not the proper way. So what happens is when we fail to be open, honest, transparent about who we are, what we are, and have that trusted environment of trusted advisors and people that love you enough to tell you the truth and comforting enough in order to express how you feel, sometimes we can misdirect our pain and our hurt, and we would never get down to the root of the problem. I've seen this on many, many occasions. There's sometimes you be somebody that's doing a particular thing. You want to go and have a conversation with them because they're frustrated or upset. They may tell this one person a particular story and tell you a totally different one, depending on the relationship. So I've seen these things over and over again in our communities. I was part of it. I was one of those individuals that did it all. I played each role. So I know how it feels to be in these seats, in these positions. I know how to misdirect, misguide, and throw people. I've done all of it. But I started to realize in my life, in order for me to be the best version of myself, I had to come to grips and start from the very, very beginning and start building up that foundation of being truthful and honest with me first. Then the time will come when I'll be able to be open and honest with other people, trusted people that are vetted, people that have a reputation in our environment to know that, hey, this person right here, they really care about the community. They really care about people. They have a loving family, loving one. We seen them act in the house, outside the house. They've done things to where this person is honorable, respected enough to where there's things that's going on. They will be honest. At least even you can't solve your problem in particular. They at least be able to guide you and just tell you the truth from what they see. And then from there from there we can start building from that point to say, you know what, okay, now let's go get the help. It may need some therapy. This particular situation may need another personnel to come in with with a different level of expertise to help diagnose or figure out, well, what's going on here. But the more and more we're able to do that within our own communities and start doing that with oneself, we'll start to be able to build up that unlimited amount of potential that we all have within us, because we all are great. But we first got to identify with that greatness. Like the loved one on TikTok, Boogie said about, if I'm outside, does that make me outstanding? Powerful perspective. Somewhere along that line, somebody had impacted them to even be able to think from a optimistic perspective, not being pessimistic, looking at the cup as half full versus empty. Somebody impacted them in their life to give them perspective about things being on the upside. I think that is super, super powerful. So it starts with the language that we are using. How do we self identify? How do we self identify? Because people only respond to us based on how we look at ourselves. Let me say that one more time. People only respond to us based on how we look at ourselves. So if you look at yourself as somebody that's not worthy of, it's hard for other people to find value within you. Even though there's people that love you, and no matter how much you doubt yourself, they believe in you. But if you walk around this world and you think that you're not worth it, it's hard to convince the world that you are and treat you as such. So those things primarily got to be built up from within, internally. There's steps that we can go by. There's things that we can do to boost up our confidence, boost up that reassurance of who we are. We can start building up that superhero from within. So now the world respond to us as that superhero. But we can do these things. It's never too late. Yeah, we have made choices in our lives that led us to who we are today. Circumstances, environment, people, places, things, all of these things had came with a decision that we had made at one particular or another, at one particular time or another in our lives. We had made some of these decisions, and these decisions had led us to be where we are in our lives today. Some better than others, good, bad, or indifferent. We are here, but we don't have to stay here. This is only a temporary state, a phase, a moment, a time, because now we have some of the wealth of knowledge. We can use some of the technology for better. not for worse. We can start enhancing the way we think. We can start getting in environments where we got think tanks. We can start getting around people that are more enlightened, or more people that are more purpose driven, so we can get in these spaces that have conversations like this to make ourselves look at one another, or look at oneself and say, you know what? Do I have the class of individuals that I want to be around? Are they around me? Am I that person that's worthy of being in these same spaces? Do I have the value? Do I count that value? Am I able to seek that value from within? So now the world can respond to me as such. Can I walk around this world and feel beautiful when people in my life had told me that I was non-attractive? Can I be somebody that's smart in my mind, in my world, even though there are environments that said that, hey, this guy right here, he or she, they can't think past go? Do I find that self-worth when I say, you know what, I'm somebody that has high self-esteem, when the world just beat you down and say, you know what, there's no way nobody can find value within you? How do we boost that up? How do we pick that up? It's about self-identifying first, because no matter what the world say, they can never change how you think about you. No matter what the world say, they can't never change how you think about you. That's so powerful. That's where you start to separate yourself. Instead of when you're standing outside, I'm not just outside, I'm outstanding. Not just outside, I'm outstanding. You are that gift. You have unlimited amounts of potential. You are blessed because you said you are blessed. You have all your faculties. You can think, you can problem solve, you can assess, you can be very, very selective in your judgment. You have agency. You can be you can make a decision. You have prudence. You are wise. Your experiences give you some of that level of wisdom. So no matter what the world may misjudge you, they can misjudge you all day. But if you can identify who you are and walk tall with your own spirit, with your own mind, with your own thoughts, your own beliefs, and you can stand 10 toes on those things, you can walk in any environment, any room, and light it up, because the reassurance is with you. I know that to be true. There's certain people. I remember I was talking one day. We went to Woodbury Commons. Me, my uncle At, my brother, my cousin. I think Rob Rich was with us. Maybe Bussy, maybe R.I.P. Blessings. Long story short, we went to Woodbury Commons. We went up there in Connecticut. So we go to the shopping outlets doing our thing. And while we was up there, I've seen this tall Caucasian man. He had his hands in his pockets. Kid you not. He had like this energy around him that is super infectious. I'm still talking about it to this day. The man had his hands in his pocket, but and he was just walking around, but it felt like the man was floating. I kid you not. And I still remember him to this day, because he was in there by himself doing his own thing, minding his business. But he had an energy around him that just glowed. And it felt like he was just gliding around Woodbury Commons. It was something that I haven't seen before, in the sense of an energy and an aura around this individual. And I still remember him to this day. I still remember he had like some tan khakis on, hands in his pockets, just doing his own thing. But the man was just moving with so much energy, it felt like the man was floating. He literally wasn't floating, but I'm saying, giving an analogy, I'm just speaking from that perspective of giving you an idea of how it seemed to me, as if, when you see somebody floating, it's like, whoa, that's kind of crazy. That's what I've seen, or that's the energy that was around him. So what I'm saying is that we have the same ability to light up rooms and environments the same way. When you so sure of yourself, when you have that belief about you and knowing who you are, knowing your gifts, knowing your talents, we can create that. We can start today to do that, because we are where we are in our lives today, right? No pun intended. Are you at the point in your life where you want to be at? And even if you are, would you want to do more? Would you want to experience more? Do you want to affect other people's lives for the better? Do you want to open up more opportunities based on your ideas, your beliefs, your financial state, all of the things that you can contribute to make your purpose and your premise that much bigger. I know I would love to do that. Yes, I am blessed and appreciative from where I'm at in my life. So I count my blessings every day. Every day I get up and I pray. I make sure I connect to the Most High. I make sure that I try to use my better judgment. I don't do it all the time because I'm human. So there's some things that I misjudge, and sometimes I could be, whatever flaws I have. That it is what it is, and I don't beat myself up over those things. I know that I should still have room for improvement. So, and I know even when I feel I'm at my best, I know there's still more room for that. My mom tell me that all the time. My mom says, "Yo, even for herself, she said I'm doing good right now, but I know I could do better." So that drives me to say, no matter where I'm at in my life, I know I still got more room for growth. And that's the beauty of us right now today. You could be content. You could be in a place in your life to where you feel like, everything is good. People good, family good, everything around me good, I'm blessed, etc. But what if you have access to more, to affect more, to do more acts of servitude, to be able to offer more of you, to change other people's lives, to change your life directly, to be the best version of you, to where you can have more purpose in your purpose-driven mind, right? You're a purpose-driven individual. You're created. You have a design. You're curating your purpose, and out there while you're doing these things, imagine impacting instead of one, you could do two. You infected two people's lives for the better. Danny man, what's up, loved one? Imagine that. Imagine you have the ability to, you know, do more and do more acts of servitude. How would that look to you? If you were to create that version of you, what would that look like? Hold that thought. I want you to hold that thought for a minute. As we take this commercial break, I want you to ponder on that. If you were to create that best version of you, what would some of the things be that you would change, keep the same, reiterate, rewrite? What stories would you tell? We would do that in just 1 second. After this commercial break, we're gonna get right back to it. Peace, beloveds. Thank you for tuning in to the Respectfully Great podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Reed, and I appreciate your continuous support. Do you know that over 80% of the people that watch our channel aren't subscribed? By subscribing to our channel, you give us the opportunity to bring on more guests to add more value to our channel. To join our growing community, head over to respectfullygreat.com, sign up for our email list to get exclusive updates on empowering blogs, as well as the latest and greatest in Respectfully Great fashion. Once again, it's nothing but big love, and we value your commitment. Yes, yes. Give a round of applause to yourselves because I think you guys are awesome. You guys are beautiful people. And I commend you for that, man. Just showing up in real time and in due time. If people haven't seen it at the very moment, when you do come across this, I want to give you a round of applause because I'm gonna let you know that you are valued, and you are worthy. Understand? So here's a round of applause to you. Absolutely, absolutely. Also, when you get a chance and opportunity, go to Respectfully Great on YouTube and thumb up the video. The reason why we do this is because we want to boost up the algorithm so it comes across more people. There are more people that can benefit, that can utilize the conversations that we have with one another today. Your perspectives are super, super impactful, and I want the word to be spread because I want people to be impacted by your thoughts and your beliefs that are really, really positive and transformational. So it's very, very important that we go to these videos on YouTube, thumb it up, like it, share it. All of these things boost up the algorithm, and I appreciate you for taking the time out to do such. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So now, highly relevant, my brother. That's a comment from my brother Nano, my man Dan the man. You know it's big love, family. Um, if we were to create these versions, right? Open forum. If I can go. I want you guys to really express how you feel. If there was one thing today, right? Along your journey, if there's something that you would love to do today, excuse me, I just took some good drink. But if there was something that you want to add, right, today, if you can add, if you're building up that superhero, what would be one of your attributes? If you had the gift today, any gift, what is something that you would add as one of your superpowers, what will be one of your superpowers? I want to see some of your thoughts and your beliefs and some of your ideas because I think your ideas would really, really impede and impact me in different ways as well. So I'm very, very, very curious on what something that you would use as a superpower or one of your attributes if you were a superhero. If there's something that you can add to your repertoire today, what would it be? What would it be? Curious to know. Curious to know. For me, right? If I had to, Ellie says, extending my reach. Ooh, extending her reach. Powerful. Eliana, my sister Ellie said, if there was one of her superpowers that she would add to her abilities and to her character, if she were to build up her superhero, one of her attributes will be extending her reach. That is so powerful. I love that. I love that because when you have that reach, you have more impact. I love that perspective. I really, really like that. If I were to have one of my superpowers, I think mine would be uh if I had a superpower, it would be um s- it would be to be able to instill belief in children. I like instill belief in children. Is Lizzie said that's crazy. What's up? So Lizzie said hers would be, say it again. So Lizzie said one of her superpowers, if it were to be hers, and she'd be able to add this to her powers, it would be to protect all of the kids. That is super, super powerful and commendable. I love that. Protect the children. My sister Ellie says, extending her reach, be able to touch the world. That is those are unique gifts. And I love them for many reasons because the work that we do, right? The work that we all do, we do a lot of meaningful work. My sister Ellie does a lot of meaningful work, and what she offers, imagine the world could be at her fingertips and be able to come across the wealth of knowledge that she's able to spread. I think when it comes to being able to extend your reach, that's probably one of the most powerful things that you can do in order to touch the people. Lizzie said that protecting children, I think that in itself is so, so meaningful. I think being able to protect the future of our generations, making sure that they are okay and protect them from harmful individuals out there is work that goes, beyond it's so important because we know how children get taken advantage of. My sis Ellie says, I feel like if I can impact more people, it will create a trickle effect to everyone, the youth and the elderly. Ooh, the elderly and the youth. That's very, very key. Sometimes we really forget the elderly. We love the children. We love who we are. And we miss out the ones that came before us. And we don't protect them. There's environments, was disgusting. And I hate to even repeat it. But I think it was locally, somewhere in Long Island, there was an individual that was in a nursing home, supposedly taking care of some of our elderly. And this man was assaulting them, sexually assaulting the individuals in this in a nursing home. How disgusting, how low. So when we talking about protecting the youth and the elderly, that is very, very key. Ageism is real. Ageism is real. Absolutely, sis. Some people tend to write you off when you reach that age of being an elderly person. We put them off in a nursing home and just wait until they passing. So, what systems do we set up in order to protect them? What vetting system do we have in place to make sure that those individuals get the medications that they need, the aid that they need, to make sure that they are watched over and protected? Because we have a lot of people that come in these spaces that don't care about them, just writing them off as, hey, this person don't matter, not knowing that they affected the generations that's coming after them. They have extended families, they created life. How, when you think about our elderly, without them, we won't be created. We won't have this experience if the ones that we consider elderly at this very point, at this point in our lives, we won't be part of the creation. They created life. So creating life, how are we now looking at that as something to be protected? And the people that's able to do that, that have done it, we just write them off, or we don't have a vetting system to where they come into these spaces and environments where they need the most care because it's hard for them to take care of themselves, and we got people that don't care about them. How are we hiring these people that come in this environment and do nothing but take advantage of them? We just know the ones that got caught, right? So the guy in Long Island that was sexually assaulting the elderly, the only reason why we know about it because he got caught, but it's a real thing that goes on. Same way when they're child predators. I was watching something with Cam today on his show, and they had a great idea of catching sexual predators. There was a show that they were going to do, but he said he had conversed with his lawyers, and he was saying that the risk that they were taking of trying to harm the same people that were taking advantage of children, it would cause them more friction in the end, because they was like, yo, we gonna catch these predators and we gonna make sure that they don't hurt another soul when it comes to children. But that was the intent of Cameron and his other colleagues to put together a show to go out there and check and catch child predators. So there's a lot of good people in our world that want to do the right thing, but there are systems that still protect some of these individuals. Not saying things are right or wrong, like the system that they have to go through. I know sometimes we say that these punishments aren't harsh enough because they get slaps on the wrist and they come back out in the real world and still up to the shenanigans, still taking advantage of children. So, what systems do we have in place to protect the children, protect the elderly, protect ourselves? The body politic, we talked about that not last week, the prior week before, 2 weeks ago. We talked about the body politic. How do we protect one another? How do we protect ourselves? How do we protect our children? How do we protect our elderly? What systems do we got in place for protection? So when we talk about having the superpower of reaching beyond ourselves, touching the masses, and being able to protect all people, that's super commendable. That's super um I'm super appreciative to have the thought perspective of individuals that want to take care of and protect and serve. So I think that's the job in itself that allows each individual to feel confident in the environments that they grow up in, because they know that they're protected by the people that can, take authority and make sure that these individuals are off our streets. 1 second, let me just move this TikTok thing over. Make sure that we're still on active. There we go. Yeah, we there. Back. Yeah, superpowers. If in this world today, right? Um, what are some of the things that, oh no, we talked about a superpower that we all would have, right? Would there be something that you wish? I don't really want to say it like that because it's all about framing and how we structure the question. So I don't want to say necessarily take away, but if there was a thing that you would change, right? If that we talked about an attribute and a superpower that you wish you can enable, turn on, and who now this is one part of my superpower. If there was a thing that you can do without, what's one of those things, Capo, what's up, loved one? What's one of those things that you think you can do without? If I were to think about me, if there was an attribute or something that I say I wish I can do without, um, for me, maybe being egotistical, right? For me, I would think that. And although I don't say I'm super ego driven, right? But if I were to say, you know what, instead of me being an individual that so ego driven, that me, my self-centered, or being cynical per se, right? There's nothing wrong with, I know they what's the other word they talk about? Um what's the word Kanye said in his raps? I don't know. I can't think of it. But more or less, if we just use ego, right? And it's funny because we talked about the unalived by the ego. They call it death of the ego, right? This is the terminology that they use. What was we talking about this at? I was talking to my boy Jay. Me and my boy, I think me and my boy Jay was talking about somebody. I was talking to some individual about the ego aspect. So I say if there was one thing that I could do without, I think just being so egotistical, right? Even though I'm not, but I'm just saying if there are parts of me that I feel that I may be going too crazy in whatever direction, I think being ego driven and being more purpose driven and more open minded around things, I think it would aid me for a better tomorrow, and not have so much pride about certain things. I think being prideful of who you are, where you are, is a great attribute. But when you start to be bigger than a program, I think it'd be problematic. When you start being above the people, I think it'd be problematic. So if there was something that I could do without, right? If we talking about egotistical, if there was ever a moment where I feel that I'm bigger than the people, if I'm bigger than the people, I think I could do without that. Is there something that um the audience, chat, if there's something that you felt, if you had that superpower, or whoever you are today, if you had that character and you building up that character, there's some attributes that you will want, there's some attributes that you don't want. Is there something that you say, you know what, whether you have it now, you don't have it, or you say, you know what, I don't have it now and I don't ever want this thing. Is there something that you feel you can do without? Just a curious question, because I love to have the balance. Ellie says, one attribute I can live without and I think should be taken from everyone is greed. I love that one. I feel like all evil revolves around greed. We can all be secure and still sometimes have a little greed. I agree, sis. I agree. Ooh, that's a powerful one. Greed. Have you ever seen the show on television, American Greed? I watched that. I used to watch that a lot. And it shows how some people love to manipulate the system. People take advantage of other people. There was people, I was watching one episode where they was doing a lot of tax fraud, right? There was a guy that had set up fake tax uh uh what's it called? Fake tax um businesses. So he had stationed like one or two, three of them, whatever, and they would do faulty tax. They would go in there, they would scratch off the individuals. They would take this is what they would do. They would take all the person's information. They would transfer the money to different banks when people filed their taxes. They would take their money and they would take the money that they got back from other people's taxes, and they would just dump them in different bank accounts of their own. And he had a firm, two or three firms where they would do faulty taxes, different locations every year. Open up this new do taxes for free. Don't pay this, don't pay that, ba 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 ba. And every person that they came through their door, they were scamming. So that's part of that greed thing. I was watching this on American Greed. So when Ellie talk about greed, if we all can do without greed, I think that is so powerful. It that would actually increase the humanity of people and let people, this is at one point in time we had barter systems, right? So when we used to trade for goods and services. There was a point in time of, the money was obsolete and the system of the coinage, we didn't do that at a particular time. It was about, the farmers trade cattle and trade wheat and trade, you know different harvests, et cetera, et cetera. So there was a barter system. You have a person that does steel work. Okay, they go and they steal and they trade off for some vegetables or some livestock or whatever. So I think these things, when we start being, more humanitarian, this is where we can go back to some of those methods, not back then in that sense, but as far as the way of thinking of not being so greedy in our approach. At least says you can have it all and still have greed towards the less fortunate. Mm, and vice versa. Oh, I got to say that again. Round of applause for that one, sis. I like that. I love that perspective. Yes, yes. She says this: you can have it all and still have greed towards the less fortunate and vice versa. Meaning that your mindset can say, I need to have more than those people that are less fortunate over there. They don't have nothing, but I have to make sure I stunt on those individuals over there. I got to make sure I got more than them. And then you also can look at the other individuals that have money and say, you know what, those people right there, there's no way they should have all that money. There's no way they should be driving around in those cars and wearing this type of jewelry and money and taking it. It's a lot of greed. What's up, Rach? Rachel in the building. What's up, sis? There's a lot of greed, and it could go in different directions. What's that? You said materialism? Yeah, Lizzie said it can go with materialism. Absolutely materialistic. We living in a world where there's good evening, big bro. Absolutely, sis. We in the building. Absolutely, Rach. Yeah, materialism. So we living in a society where there's it's materialistic. So people judge you based off of what you got, the possessions, and not knowing that all of the riches come from within. All of your riches come from within. Of course, money is necessary for us to go out there and create opportunity, right? So we know that we can't just uh go and pay our rent, our mortgages, etc., and just say, hey, off of good faith, man, let me just not pay this rent this month, or let me just not pay my mortgage. So we do have obligations when it comes to money. So we still need the money and stuff to go out there and take care of things and create opportunity. But when we saying that, when we using these tools, because money is just a tool, right, to gain access and opportunity. When we start using these tools to take advantage in any direction, we start being more in alignment with greed versus being more of a humanitarian type individual. And I think that's where we can start we can start to lose ourselves. We can start doing things that gets our moral compass and our moral conduct. We can start using the money and the greed for the wrong reasons. We can start doing things to try to manipulate the people. And once you start manipulating the people, and once you start taking advantage of the people, oh, it's all downhill from there because nothing moves without the people. Nothing moves without the people. So when you start taking advantage of people, it's only a matter of time until that gets gets reflected right back on you. And then there gonna be some people that you love that be affected by the same methods that you using to take advantage of other people. We know that society may not be the nicest, right? Because you got people out there that deal with greed, deal with the ego, deal with taking advantage of other people. This is how, this is how how you say it. Uh this is how groups of people over time conquered during the war times, right? After they conquer a piece of land and take advantage of the people, they bestowed upon them their religion, their belief system, take advantage of their people, their ideology. We've seen this over time, over time, over time, and over time. Divide and conquer. There's so many methods of where people try to split up the people for one person's agenda or a group of people agenda. So if you're going out there and we're doing these things that are morally wrong, and making sure that these people, are always at odds. How do we ever come together? Where are the minds to say, you know what, that system over there that they working, it doesn't work for us. We're not gonna be greedy in our approach. No, we're gonna amount to the things that we want to amount to. We're gonna go out there and strive for the best. We're gonna go out there and take care of people and making sure that with our agenda, if our superpowers were to extend our hands and our arms to touch all of the world and all of the people within it, we know that we're gonna be able to introduce new methods of caring for one another. Now we in a society where we super desensitized. Mel, what's up, loved one? What's good, God? What's up, loved one? Mel's in the building. What's up, family? Now we start taking advantage of people. And then now where does that leave us as a whole? Desensitized. I remember I was having a conversation with one of my brothers back in the day. This is years ago. We was watching something on YouTube. This is when we had the recording studio. So one of my brothers was in there, and there was somebody that was being assaulted by another personnel in the streets, and I think it was a cop, whoever, somebody. And we, I asked him, I said, "Yo, in that situation, what you gonna do? What would you do?" He said, "I ain't doing nothing." And I thought about it. And initially for me, I beg to differ. I'm like, I would try to impede some way, somehow, just to stop the abuse. But then, just difference of opinion, no right or wrong. I'm just saying that at that moment, it's like, well, when do we uprise and stand for one another when somebody's getting done wrong? A lot of times people tell you, oh, mind your business, stay out of that. And to a degree, you like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't get involved in other people's business. But if somebody getting slapped around in the middle of the street, saying a woman getting, whoever it may be, woman or man, if somebody's just getting assaulted, and we're trying to figure out what transpired, what's going on. Okay, I think this can be handled in a different way. Even if that person is getting slapped up, if it's warranted, and I think there's other ways of getting justice. I think there's other means that we can be able to get to in order to make sure that that person should be punishable for whatever act he or she had done. I think there's ways of doing that. But I think us as human beings, we see these things go on every day, and we don't even mind. First thing we do is pull out our cameras and film it. And then to myself, it's like, well, when do anybody get involved? A car could be sitting out there on fire or something, and people just sit back, pull out their camera, not knowing that there's maybe a baby inside, maybe another human being, maybe they need assistance. And people, before they go and help and assist, the first thing they do is watch and put on social media. So we super desensitized to one another. People are willing to walk over somebody that need assistance. And that just made me think of us as human beings, like, well, what is our job? Am I only supposed to care about me and mine? But what if the day comes to where you and yours need assistance? How do you, if we supposed to look at one another as a community, how do we build each other up and feel confident enough to go out there to face, the oppressed? If we the ones that's being oppressed and the people are taking advantage of us, how do we stick together and lock arms and say, you know what, these people over here, they ain't doing the right thing by us? So that means that we always will be divided because we only have self-fulfilled agendas. That means that we only worrying about me and mine. And okay, you understand that, but when does the purpose become bigger than just you? And then when do we teach each other how about linking arms and being and standing with one another for what's right? All people, because we know there are certain selective individuals got their own agendas that's only going to take care of them and theirs. And I'm not upset or mad about it, but what I'm saying is that there are some of the same people that lock in arms for the wrong reasons that look to take advantage of the oppressed. So when do we what do we do in these moments? I think that having these open forums and discussions about who we are, where we trying to go, how we trying to get there, how can we develop, what skill sets can we develop, what attributes can we bring to the forefront, what vetting systems do we have when it comes to us, children, elderly. These are some of the things that we all can implement within our own selves, starting at home, and then carried out within our own communities. And then now this can be a trickle effect, like my sis said, around the whole world till we all operate out of righteousness, doing what's right, coming together for a cause and say, you know what, if we disagree with a thing, how about we come to the drawing board and make some improvements? If things aren't going the way that way, people are protected. Because we all can thrive in this society. There's some people that don't want entrepreneurship. That's totally fine. There's some people that just want to work and say, I don't want to deal with none of the headaches that deal with entrepreneurship. Totally fine. There's some people that says there's entrepreneurship. I don't want to do the other 9 to 5 work. That is totally fine. There's some people that say I want to be the CEO of a company. There's some people say, you know what, I want entry level I don't want the responsibility of doing the other things. That's fine. So there's always will be classism, but that can be by discretion depending on where you at in your life and what you want. So we can always all survive in this world. I think when we start delegating the responsibilities from one another when it comes to even to in a household. We can have a better premise of curating our premise and our purpose. So, prime example, you in a house. I know when I was growing up, there was things that were taught to me that I had to do regardless. When I was coming in the house and I see an old lady, when I was like in my younger years, my mom made sure, my mom, my dad, whatever, they used to make sure, hey, if you see an elderly person walking with some bags, you go over there and you go and assist. You help them with their bags. You pick their bags up. You assist them to the door. You ask them what they need. You ask them, hey, is this good enough? You see somebody on the floor that needs to be picked up. You go in there, you help and assist. We look out for one another. And I think some of these elements are lost in our community today. There's people that, won't hold the door for the next person, slam the door on them, just don't have no courtesy, don't have don't have mannerisms, don't know how to communicate, don't talk. People just, worried about themselves. They don't understand that that is short lived. Yes, you can take care of you. Self preservation. I always bring this up. Preserve self. But then once you get past that stage, it's community now. It turns from community to worldly. So how do we have the agenda of each other to make sure that we all have our best interests at heart? Meaning that we going out there and operating within our purpose, being who exactly you desire to be, and doing it at a high level. There's people that take pride. There was a janitor. I forgot what book it was. Um, is it not the million, not the richest man in Babylon? I can't think of the book. But the example was true story. There was a janitor, right? And at the time, uh, he got himself involved in stocks, a janitor his whole life. So the wages that he was making, it wasn't like he was a CEO of a company running a Fortune 500 business. He had, blue collar work, worked every day, took care of his family, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But what he did was he started to master compound interest. So what he did was, is it the compound effect? Maybe that book. I can't remember what book it was. But long story short, he used to invest his money in the stock market. He was a janitor. By the time he had passed, I think he had amassed $8 million from the time that he started as a janitor and sustained that his whole life. So they saying, well, how did this janitor, with the wages that he was making, amount to $8 million from the time of his passing? So what he did was he understood compound interest. He took a percentage of his money, constantly put it into the stock market, and from there, it grew over time, compounding, compounding, compounding. And over the years, he amassed over $8 million in his bank account. So what I'm saying is that you can take pride in the work that you do, no matter what it is, and you don't have to go in the world and take advantage with greed and take advantage of other people being super egotistical. You don't have to scheme and scam other people out of um their fortunes. You see the Madoff situation, how he took all of these people retirement funds, their 401ks, their Roth IRAs, and all the money that they invested, that they had their life savings. This man took all their money and dumped it into his own bank account. There was no investment portfolio for those other individuals. So their life savings down the tube. He took advantage of the people. Took advantage of the people. And what I'm saying is that you take his scenario versus somebody that took pride in his work and just made proper investments as a janitor, still ended up winning, not taking advantage of the people, and walked away with $8 million, or he amassed $8 million along his journey throughout his life. So what I'm saying is that we still can go out there, thrive, make a living, sustain, take care of our people, do what we want, and take pride in the work that we do. No matter if you're a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, whether you're the janitor, whether you're an athlete, whether you are a party promoter, whether your life is in education, you're an educator, whatever it may be, world traveler, whatever it may be, you can go out there and take pride in that and still make a standard of living, not taking advantage of the people. And I think that's important. This is where we start building up that character of being those superheroes, being that man, being that woman that is super intuitive to who they are and their purpose. So that's why I think this concept today was very, very important of creating that, because we can do that in so many different ways. We can look at life and say, you know what, although My life is good at this moment, but how can I improve it? What are some of the things that you can add to your daily life to improve it? It could be a health thing, it could be a financial thing, it could be learning how to communicate better. It's about, connecting more maybe with loved ones and family members. Maybe something that you have done in the past that you can't take back what you have done in the past, right? But you can improve from what you have done. So I know there's some things that I've said even at times to different people that I know I hurt other people's feelings, because at the moment I was hurt and I said, you know what, that's not the approach. Although I felt disrespected, hurt, whatever it may be, I know that the more mature version of me still can be able to handle that and say, you know what, however that person wanted to deal with me at the moment, I'm not going to allow it, but there's still a better way that I can handle this, instead of me cursing the person out or wanting to go and fight and do all these other things. Because the only thing that's going to do is lead me down a path that I don't want to do, and a path that I don't want to go down. I would miss out on loved ones and family members. I've done that before, to where I missed out of opportunity, experiences, memorable moments, because I chose to do the wrong thing. Every day we have choice. Every day there's a cause and effect. If you do this, then this would happen. And the more and more that we start understanding cause and effect, we start positioning ourselves to say, you know what? How about I make a change today? How about I add to my purpose? How about I create that purpose? How about I curate? How about I work on me today so I can show up the best version for the next person that come in contact with me? Because if I want to touch the world, do I want to give the world the 10 years ago Johnny, the one that's more egotistical, more greedy, more looking for scamming and scheming? Do I want to give people that version of me? Or do I want to show up the more mature, the more giving, the more understanding, the more communicative individual? Do I want to give people that version of me? And I think that the latest version of myself is the person I want to show up as, to give people the best experiences when they come in contact with me. I want people to have pleasurable experiences when they come in contact with me. And the only way I'm able to do that is if I'm in um the best space, mentally, spiritually, physically, and have an idea of where I want to go and how I want to serve. Show up and say, you know what? Like Jim Rome said, if I help enough people get what they want, eventually I get what I want. So I prioritize an acts of servitude. It's not just a transactional interaction. I don't want to make all my interactions with people just transactional. And if it is, I want it to be transactional for good moral conduct. I don't want it to be just financial interactions. All well and good. That'd be a beautiful thing. But if I show up with somebody that has something to offer, like a piece of me that they can take with them for the rest of their life, that was impactful, I think that means more to me in that aspect. My sister Ellie says, who you were is not who you are, and who you are is not who you are going to be. Absolutely, sis. Ooh, one more time. Who you were is not who you are, and who you are is not who you are going to be. We are forever changing. The evolution aspect. We are continuously growing. And that's the beauty of each individual. That's the reminder right there. What my sis said, that right there is the reminder that no matter what transpired in the past, that was then. What's now is now, and what's going to be for tomorrow is going to be a different version. And that could be the more elevated version, the more thought provoking version, the more purpose driven version, the more astute person in version, the one that has more to offer because they became something for tomorrow. They planted those seeds, and then what curated tomorrow is going to be the best version of you. That's powerful, sis. I appreciate and I thank you for that. I think I thank everybody that had so much introspective ideas, thought provoking ideas, and was able to show up and offer some of your beautiful insights. Because I think that these are the things that help shape and mold me in so many ways that you can't even imagine. And I'm letting you know today in real time that all of your thoughts, all of your perspectives allow me to go back to the drawing board and say, you know what? Let's improve here. Let's improve here. Let's be a little bit more, this. Let's be a little bit less greedy. Let's be a little bit less egotistical. Let's be more giving, be more acts of servitude. Let's be more in purpose. I think having these conversations, giving that growth, allowing this platform, allowing each individual in here to be affected by the thoughts and the beliefs of empowerment, like like the loved one Boogie said on the TikTok. If I stand outside, does that make me outstanding? Absolutely. I love that quote. If I'm standing outside, does that make me outstanding? Absolutely. It makes me outstanding. And I think that when we start to associate ourselves with the powerful words, because we know that words have meaning and power, when we start speaking from the tongue, from optimistic perspective, I think that there are unlimited possibilities that can happen once we start changing our language of empowering language, speaking the language of truth, prosperity, growth. There's so many things that can come from it, and I know that this is the confirmation when we in a trusted space, a safe environment for people just to show up who they are, and speak their mind, speak their piece, and being less judgmental, just being able to offer their insight. I think it gives us the freedom to express these things, because these some of the things that we may have bottled up. Maybe we don't have these conversations with other individuals. Thank you, sis. You allow me and us to have so much um different variations of beliefs and thoughts. And you always do that when you show up. You plant this seed that allow us to think. And I know that we all do it because you put me in a different space. Just your responses and just your thoughts, and how you show up. And I think that you are stretching your arms in so many ways. Your firm is stretching your arms in so many ways. Your impact is stretching your arms in so many ways, and you're doing it not just from um your business model, but showing up as a person. And this is the impact that we all have. We all have that same impact, no matter what you're doing to make the money on. That's an added thing. You, the person, have to show up initially first. And I think that you do a great job. You, Bones, your family, y'all a testament to how y'all show up. Y'all purposeful. Y'all do things with purpose. And I think that's the beauty in being able to come in spaces and offer a version of yourself, because we all get a piece of one another when we in here, when we sharing our minds and our perspectives. And I thank you. And I think everybody that comes in here and just allow themselves just to be acknowledged, just showing up to say, yo, I'm in the building. I see you. You coming in the building, whether you in, out, make no difference. It's just the confirmation that the algorithm is pushing, and we are in tune, we are tapped in, and we all are helping one another, you know, use each other as those stepping stones to get where we need to get to. We are helping one another, and that's the beauty of us just coming together as a collective and doing that community work. And I think it's super impactful when we do these things day in and day out, because you do it on your off schedule. Everybody that shows up today, they do it on the off schedule. On the off schedule, there's people that are impacted just with your presence alone. That's how impactful we are. When I see that man with his hands in his pocket floating, just his presence alone impacted me. And I know it impacted a lot of other individuals there. And we here today are impacted from one another. And I think that's the beauty. And we can continuously show that weekend, day in, day out. We can do that. And that's the power and the strength of each individual when we feel empowered by ourselves and as a collective. That's the why we able to show up the way we able to show up. We able to show up not only for you, but for other people. That's the strength that's reassuring that, you know what, you can do that for other people because you're already showing up for self. And I think that is so powerful. So today been a beautiful build. It's been a beautiful conversation. I got so much from it. I'm super proud. I'm super ecstatic. I'm excited, and it's giving me more drive to want to approach other things for tomorrow with a better outlook, and making sure that, do your part. Make sure I show up and do what I need to do in order to be the best version, because we all are doing it together as a collective. So I love each and every one of us, one of you individuals. I love ourselves. Continuously love yourself, love the people you come in contact with, and keep creating that best version of you, because like Ellie said, the back then version ain't who you are today, and the person that's tomorrow ain't that person today. So make sure that we just keep showing up and doing our part, and everything's gonna work out. in due time. So I love each and every one of y'all. Love yourselves even more, and continue to go out there and still thrive and still go out there and make an impact, because you are doing it. Everybody is doing it. Until next time, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, thumb up those videos on YouTube. Shout out to everybody on all the platforms: YouTube, Instagram, StreamYard, Facebook, TikTok, all of those platforms. So make sure you go to YouTube, thumb up the video, boost up that algorithm, leave your comments, because those are very, very conversation starters. And it's just a testament that you was in the building, let people know that you was here repping, doing your thing. So I thank you. I thank you unconditionally. And until next time, I will see you next Thursday, same time, 7 p.m. And this holiday season. So, a lot of things going on with the holiday season. Hope everything is working out the way it need to. And we're gonna get through it. And then next year starts a new year. And we're gonna start a brand new year with a great start. So let's get through this holiday time safely, and love yourself and love your peoples unconditionally. Till next time. See you soon. Respectfully.